Trouble on the field. Bo Nix, Troy Franklin joining us with Lincoln Kennedy, Roxy Bernstein with you. And
from the University of Oregon, ladies and gentlemen, Bo Nix.
Coming into the season, no one really had high hopes for Bo Nix. Despite being a first-round pick, many believed that there were a handful of better quarterbacks in the 2024 draft class. However, with his rookie season winding down, not only has Nix gone on to shock the football world, but has also completely turned around the Denver Broncos. Today, we'll take a look at his entire football life. Welcome to American Baller, where we focus on all things NFL. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell for future videos.
He'll get a chance to show off. Here's Bo Nix.
From his start as a kid to turning heads in high school, breaking down his college recruitment and collegiate career, before diving into what scouts thought about him leading up to the draft, how he fared on draft night, and how his rookie season has played out thus far, to answer the overarching question of how good is Bo Nix actually? Childhood high school. Nix was born on February 25, 2000, in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, to Patrick and Krista Nix. His dad spent time in college serving as the quarterback for the Auburn Tigers, and from a young age, Bo wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps. During high school, Bo played for his dad at Pinson Valley High School in Pinson, Alabama. During his time at Pinson Valley, Nix picked up over 12,000 yards of total offense and scored 161 touchdowns. He was a one-man army and recognized as one of the best players in all of Alabama high school football, earning the state's Mr. Football Award in his senior season. College recruiting. Nix was one of the most highly touted prospects in the class of 2019, and scouts couldn't get enough of him. ESPN ranked him as the second best quarterback and 23rd best prospect the class had to offer, with a 4-star rating and a scout grade of 86. He was getting attention from almost all of the top programs in the country, receiving offers from schools like Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, LSU, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. He went on to follow in his father's footsteps and committed to Auburn. College career. He immediately took over as the team's starter in his freshman season. Even though he was a highly sought-after recruit, it's still a very impressive feat to earn the starting spot at a school like Auburn as a school freshman, and just spoke to the caliber of talent that Nix possessed. They faced a gauntlet of teams during the regular season, taking on 6 top 25 teams in their 12 regular season games. Nix led the Tigers to a shocking win in the final week of the regular season against 5th-ranked Alabama, taking the game by a final score of 48-45. Auburn finished the regular season with a record of 9-3 and took on 16th-ranked Minnesota in the Outback Bowl. Fresh off of a huge win over Bama, many thought this was going to be an easy win for Auburn. However, they were shocked by the Golden Gophers, falling 31-24. He finished his rookie campaign throwing for 2,542 yards, 16 touchdowns and 6 picks, while completing just 57.6% of his passes. While there was still clearly some room for growth, this was still a very solid season from a true freshman tasked with taking on premier talent. The following year, college football was forced to play a shortened season due to COVID. Auburn took a substantial step back, finishing the regular season with a 6-4 record in the regular season. This earned them a spot in the Cirrus Bowl, where they faced off against the Northwestern Wildcats. This was a very interesting matchup, as Auburn was unranked, while Northwestern was the 15th best team in the country. This game went about as well as you would have expected for the Tigers, with Auburn falling by a final score of 35-19 in a very tough loss. Nix took a bit of a step back in the shortened season. While he was a more accurate passer with a completion percentage of 59.9%, he was pretty stagnant in terms of his impact on the game, throwing for 2,415 yards, 12 touchdowns and 7 picks on only 20 less passing attempts from the previous season. Things went from bad to worse for Nix and the Tigers in the 2021 season. They continued to slide more and more each season, this time barely qualifying for a bowl game with a record of 6-6. They earned a bid to the Birmingham Bowl, where they played 21st-ranked Houston. Once again, they were outmatched in this contest, but were able to keep this game competitive, only losing by a final score of 17-13, and finishing the year with a losing record. He finished the year with 2,293 yards, 11 touchdowns, and only 3 picks, while completing 61% of his passes. Nix was only able to suit up in 10 of the 13 games Auburn played this season, and this is the explanation of why his numbers took a dip despite him playing the best football of his college career up to that point. Shockingly, this went on to be his final season in Auburn, and he made the decision to transfer to Oregon. This would end up being arguably the best decision that he made during his entire time in college. Getting out of the SEC, where he was taking on some of the best defenses in college football with an inferior supporting cast, and joining the Pac-12, where defense was never a priority, allowed Nix to establish himself as one of the top quarterbacks in the country. He led the Ducks to a 9-3 record through the regular season, and they earned a spot in the Holiday Bowl, where they took on North Carolina. This was a game that came down to the wire, with Oregon ultimately coming out on top by a final score of 28-27. Oregon finished the year as the 15th ranked team in the country. This was a breakout year for Nix, throwing for 3,593 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 7 picks, while leading the Pac-12 with a completion percentage of 71.9%. His fifth and final season in college was his best yet. Nix was able to lead the Ducks to a Pac-12 championship where they took on Washington. Despite the Huskies being a top 3 ranked team, Oregon was able to push them to their limits, but ultimately came just short of what would have been a win that gave them a playoff berth, falling by a final score of 34-31. Instead of making it into the CFP, they instead took on Liberty in the Fiesta Bowl. Oregon proved that they were more than deserving of a spot, dismantling Liberty by a score of 45-6. In his final college game, Nix threw for 363 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 0 picks, while completing 80% of his passes, having a nearly perfect game. He was arguably the best performing quarterback in all of college football this season, throwing for 4,508 yards, 45 touchdowns, and 3 picks, while completing 77.4% of his passes. He went on to lead all of college football in completions, completion percentage, and passing touchdowns. He finished third in the Heisman voting behind Michael Penix Jr. and Jaden Daniels. While he lost out on the Heisman, he earned the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year award. Nix finished his collegiate career ranking 8th all-time in career completions, 7th in passing yards, and 22nd in passing touchdowns, proving himself as one of the most talented college quarterbacks in recent history. While it cannot be argued that his numbers were a bit inflated from playing 5 seasons, it still doesn't take away how elite of a talent he was. Scouting report, NFL Draft. Leading up to the draft, many believed that Nix was bound to be one of the top quarterbacks off of the draft board. NFL analyst Lance Zierlein said in his scouting report, "Nix displays the accuracy, arm talent, and athleticism consistent with today's brand of pro quarterback. He can be punctual in getting the ball out at the top of his drop, or he can work through progressions and beat defenses with second reaction plays. He throws with good velocity and puts the ball on the money when throwing on the move. Nix has shown great improvement with his pocket poise. He's capable of moving the sticks as a scrambler or as part of the running game. Some of his gaudy protection has been driven by Oregon offense's design, but his talent clearly stands out. I've harbored bias from watching the overwhelmed version of Nix during his Auburn days, but as the saying goes, tape don't lie. Nix appears more than ready to attack the league with an NFL-caliber skill set." He projected Nix to be selected in the 2nd round and compared his game to that of Tony Romo's. While Zierlein was spot on with this breakdown of Nix as a player, the former Auburn and Oregon quarterback had a much better draft night than almost anyone saw coming. While he was the 5th quarterback off of the board, with Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and Michael Penix Jr. selected in front of him, Nix was selected by the Denver Broncos with the 12th overall pick. How has his rookie year played out so far? It appeared as if the Broncos had whiffed on another quarterback they drafted. In his first 3 starts, Nix was downright atrocious. Over this span, he threw for an abysmal 600 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 4 picks. He somewhat made up for this with 107 yards and 2 touchdowns on 18 rushing attempts, but it was clear that he had a long ways to go before he was a true starting caliber quarterback on the professional level. He finally threw his first touchdown the following week against the New York Jets. However, this was still a very tough day through the air, with Nix throwing for 60 yards and a touchdown. But following the game, it appeared as if a switch was flipped in Nix. Over the next 10 games, he threw for 2,312 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 7 picks, a complete night and day compared to his first month in the league. With the way the Broncos roster is currently constructed, he by no means needs to be filling up the stat sheet for Denver to be successful. They have arguably the best defense in the league this season and just need someone at the helm who's a game manager who simply doesn't lose the game for the Broncos, rather than making heroic plays to win. Currently, Denver has a record of 9-5 and are well on their way to a postseason berth. This is something that no one could have seen coming headed into this season. It appeared that it was going to take the team years before they even sniffed the playoffs, even if Nix was able to adjust to the league quickly. Currently, he ranks 16th in the league in passing yards and 10th in passing touchdowns. While he is no means a top talent at the quarterback position, it is extremely rare that a quarterback is in their rookie season. How good is Bo Nix actually? Nix possesses a fair amount of potential, and he has impressed many this season. He has proven the Broncos front office correct in using their first-round pick to add him to the roster, and it appears that he could be their franchise quarterback for years to come. He likely will continue to improve year after year the more acclimated he becomes with playing against NFL defenses. Along with this, as the Broncos continue to build around him, it should make life easier for him as well. If they're able to keep the core of the defense around as Nix continues to develop, Denver could be very scary in a few years. However, this year, they appear to be well on their way to a playoff berth. It'll be interesting to see if Nix will be able to keep up this level of play when the lights become a bit brighter, and also how the rest of his promising career plays out. Currently, he's an average talent at the quarterback position, but he has the potential of being a top 10 quarterback at his peak. Thank you for tuning in to American Baller. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell for future videos.